Hello people of the internet, you know what time it is, it's time for another video, and it's been a very long time, but hey, we're going to be doing a PC build for under £500, and this PC build should net you some pretty great performance at 1080p, and this system is under £500, and in US dollars it's under 550. Now before I begin, I want to say if you want to switch out any of the parts, you can do so, because this list is actually on PC Part Picker, and you can check the prices yourself and see any of the prices, change and stuff. But this build should net you some pretty great performance in most esports titles and most AAA games, but I will say that trying to push this system to do 40p 4K might be a struggle in some games, but in most games I feel like this is going to be plenty for a lot of people. So let's just jump right away. So for the first choice, we got our CPU, and for our CPU we've gone with the AMD Ryzen 3 3100 processor. Now this processor is 90 quid and it just gets the jobs done. Now this CPU is quite new and quite recent, so it can be a little bit hard to find stock of this thing, but this chip is actually really impressive in terms of performance, considering that it's on par with an Intel 7th gen processor, so it's a pretty great just for gaming and just general use. So I think the CPU is an easy pick. Next, we're going to go with the motherboard. We're going with a Gigabyte B450M DS3H Micro ATX motherboard. This motherboard fits the CPU, and it's also Micro ATX, so it's a slightly smaller, smaller size. And when you buy this motherboard, make sure it is the Ryzen Desktop 3000 ready. Now, most new units of this motherboard do fit the bill, but used ones might not have the new BIOS revision. So please make sure when you buy this motherboard, try and buy it new, and try and buy it from a retailer that you could guarantee is the latest, version of that motherboard. For memory, we're going with something with pretty, just pretty unexceptional standard memory. We're going with just 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. Now, I want to mention that you can just buy more RAM for this system. You could literally just buy, another stick of this memory, plop it into your motherboard, and you would have 16 gigabytes of RAM. And that's one of the great things about PC in general. You could just, upgrade components as you go along. But I just want to mention that, just for now, saying that you can upgrade more RAM if you don't feel like 8 gigabytes of memory is enough for you. Now, when it comes to storage, I've gone with something a little bit controversial. To keep the price down, we've just gone with a 500 gigabyte M.2 solid state drive. Now, there are multiple ways you can look at this, because you can get a 2 terabyte hard drive, which is much slower. However, when you consider some games like Call of Duty and Red Dead 2, being over 100 gigabytes, it might not be a great idea to buy a 500 gigabyte SSD only. Now, you can also buy, you could just buy a 2 terabyte hard drive, which would be about 50 quid, and then a Western Digital, blue SSD drive. For another 50 quid, but just to keep the price down, I feel like the SSD is the better choice, mainly because it's just going to speed up general operating system tasks and stuff like that. Next, we're moving on to the video card. Now, the video card, I'm going to give you two options, but I think there's one that's a much clearer, just better option in general. So we've got the Asus GeForce GTX 1650 Super with 4 gigabytes of video memory from their TUF gaming brand. This graphics card absolutely slaps, and it is an incredibly powerful graphics card, considering the amount of money that it costs. Now, if you're not really, if you don't want to buy a NVIDIA card, you could also buy the AMD RX 580. Even though those cards are slightly old, they do actually have more video memory. However, in terms of just general performance, and I feel like for most games, the 1650 Super is just going to be a better choice over the RX 580. So in the PC Part Picker build, I have selected the GTX 1650 Super, but if you want an RX 580 with some slightly more video memory and a bit more headroom when it comes to, higher resolution, the RX 580 might be a better choice for you. In terms of case, we've just gone with something pretty unexceptional, a Cooler Master Box Q300L Micro ATX Mini Tower case. This case is pretty standard, it's exceptional, it's okay, and for 40 quid it's plenty, and it's what we need. For the final part of this build, we've gone with an EVGA 600-watt 80+ certified ATX power supply. Now, you might be asking that this power supply is a bit overkill, and in truth, it kind of is. But considering the amount of money that it costs, which is only 50 quid, and it's one of the cheapest power supplies that you can find on Amazon, I actually think it's actually a quite steal, because if you're going to upgrade the system with, a new hard drive, maybe a new CPU, because bear in mind this motherboard does support the higher end Ryzen CPUs, it actually is a good choice to have, a power supply that is, quote unquote future-proof. Now, it is worth noting that this power supply is not modular, so you won't be able to, plop in, new, what's the word? You won't be able to plop in, certain things like, you know, custom power cables and stuff, but I feel like for what we're doing, and bear in mind this is a budget build, I feel like this system is a fantastic, or this whole system is a fantastic choice. Anyways, that is the PC build for today. If you want some questions, or if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments, because I will probably respond to them. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.